Hi everyone, today is just a quick video where I'm going to review the images that I captured in my last upload from Thursday, where I went out to capture some woodland shots in grey weather. If you haven't seen that video yet, then I'll put a link up there and in the description below. So as I said in that video, I initially went out to embrace the grey. So if you don't know what that is, then go and check out Julian Baird's channel and the hashtag embrace the grey, and you'll find out more about it. But essentially it's trying to make the most of the conditions. Now we get a lot of grey weather here, so sometimes you can end up being stuck indoors without having anything to photograph unless you embrace the grey. So without further ado, I'm just going to get into discussing the images that I captured. The first image I captured was all about trying to put into practice what I'd given as a tip in my woodland photography tips video from a couple of weeks ago. So I was walking along the main path of this forest, and there are some very jumbled and untidy areas of this forest. But through a lot of that jumble and a lot of the bushes and the hedgerow, I did spot a group of birch trees which were all really quite young and all really close together. So there were lots of narrow trunks poking up, and it was very eye-catching because of the uniform pattern that was available. Now, the point I made in my tips video was that you can't always determine what it is that's caught your eye, and so if I'd seen that as I was walking along and pulled my camera out and taken an image, then it wouldn't have had any kind of effect that I could see with my eyes, if that makes sense. I would have photographed all this jumbled mess in front of the birch trees, and I would have tried to pull out that pattern that I'd seen, but the jumbled mess would have just made it way too untidy. So in order to get this shot, I had to step over a fairly small ditch, which was full of water because it's been raining a lot. But I had to step over that ditch and rummage my way through a bit of a hedge. And then once I'd got through there was a much grassier patch, which is where the birch trees were. And then I was able to get a bit closer to them and then start to explore. And then I was looking for things amongst the trees that caught my eye. Now in particular, there was this one tree that did catch my eye because it had some bigger lateral branches compared to the rest. And so that stood out and broke up the pattern. Now we're drawn to patterns, and that's exactly what had caught my eye, as I said, for this image. But with this particular shot, I wanted to add some kind of interest that broke up that pattern, because then that's actually going to give a bit of interest to the viewer. As I walked about looking for some way that I could incorporate this tree with the lateral branches, it started to look to me like it was going to be a very wide image. I say panoramic even though it's not capturing and stitching a panoramic, but the panoramic format. And there was the grass on the ground, which didn't really add anything to the image, and in fact it took away from the pattern that I'd seen. There was a bit of sky above, which was just blown highlights if I was going to expose this properly. And so I decided to actually cut the top and the bottom off, as I said in the video. I am pleased with how it looks. I like the pattern that is created, and I like the way it's broken up by the few different trees. I like the idea of this image, however I don't think it's executed completely perfectly. There's just one or two things that bother me slightly. It is a little bit soft. Softer than I'd like it to be, and I think the reason for that is that the ground was soft and spongy and it's been wet, and the grass was quite thick, and I didn't have any spikes on my tripod. So I think I'm going to go back and recapture this image and have spikes on the feet so that I can get a much more steady shot and a much sharper image. Also in the video I mentioned that there was another pattern which was, to the eye, this speckling of small springed leaves that were cropping up all through this whole scene, and that hasn't come across as I'd expected as much as I'd have wanted to. So if I give it a week or less perhaps, I'll go back there, the leaves will be slightly bigger, and then I might get that speckled effect. And whether it works or not is a different story, but I'll have the straight trees and then these little dots that break it up all the way through. And I think that might look quite nice in a sort of abstract way. The second image that I captured in that video was my Arley Liston image, if you know what I'm talking about. If you've seen that video, you will know what I'm talking about. I really like this area of the wood, and I really like this oak tree, and I like this image too. However, I think that I've still got the perfect conditions to come. What those conditions are exactly, I'm not quite sure. But perhaps an early morning where there is going to be a little bit of sunlight dappled through. Everyone likes a bit of mist in woodland, and that might help separate the oak from the background a little bit more. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. In terms of the composition, I'm pretty pleased with it, but there's a few things that could be better as well. I think Sunny Liston here, the tree on the ground, that maybe needs to be a bit more in frame, or maybe see a bit more of the trunk or something like that. And I could possibly benefit from a slightly lower angle to make the oak even more dominant in the scene. However, that would put more sky in the image, and then I'm at risk of blowing highlights, so perhaps not. But I do like the group of trees that are behind Muhammad Ali, the twisted oak. It's as if they are spectators watching, and they're standing behind the champ who's looking over his adversary on the ground. I'm not sure I can make this work as a landscape format image, so I did choose portrait. It might be something that I play with the next time I'm there. The other thing that happened when I went out into the woods that day is that somehow, and rather randomly, my tripod with my video camera fell forwards, and the lens broke on the camera I mainly use for video. And that's the retractable lens that has come completely clean away from the camera. Not to worry though, insurance will cover it. It's going to be either fixed or replaced, and I'll still be making videos. But thanks a lot for everybody's concern after they saw that. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to give a like, a comment, a share, and subscribe to my channel if you've been watching and you haven't subscribed already. In my video coming up on Thursday, I'm going to be back in the woods, but partaking in a little bit of mindful photography. So stay tuned, and I'll see you then.